It was from my account. Every single transfer since July came from Sophie's account. My father's voice broke through the stunned silence of the dining room. I watched as the color drained from my sister's face, her carefully constructed facade crumbling before my eyes. The Christmas turkey lay forgotten on the table, the festive decorations a mockery of the family drama unfolding beneath them. My name is Marion. I'm 52 years old, and for the first time in my life, I was witnessing my parents finally see the truth about their daughters. Impossible, Carol whispered, her manicured nails gripping the edge of the table. At 55, my older sister had always been the golden child, successful real estate agent, married to a wealthy businessman, perfect in every way our parents could imagine. And as always, I was the afterthought, the reliable but unremarkable middle school English teacher who'd spent 30 years in the classroom while raising a daughter alone after my divorce. But not tonight. Tonight, the truth was exposed in black and white on an ATM receipt, proof that the monthly transfers helping our aging parents with their medical bills had come from me, not from the sister who had claimed the credit for 6 months. As relatives awkwardly gathered their coats and mumbled hasty goodbyes, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The validation I'd craved for decades had finally arrived, though not in the way I'd ever imagined. How did we get here? The story began 6 months ago, but the patterns were set decades earlier. Flashback, 6 months earlier. My mother's voice trembled slightly on the phone. The insurance won't cover Dad's new medication. It's another $300 a month. I closed my eyes, leaning against the kitchen counter of my modest apartment. At 78 and 76, my parents were facing the cruel reality of aging in America, fixed incomes, rising medical costs, and the slow erosion of their independence. I'll help, Mom, I said without hesitation, mentally recalculating my budget. My daughter Lily's college tuition was already stretching my teacher's salary to the breaking point. I can send you some money each month. Oh, we couldn't possibly, she began the expected protest. Please let me do this, I interrupted gently. It's not a lot, but it's something. The truth was, I'd been putting aside a small fund for a trip to Europe, my first real vacation in years. A dream that would now be deferred again. The story of my life seemed to be a series of postponed dreams, always putting others first. After hanging up, I texted Carol about our parents' situation, not expecting much. My sister lived in a different world. Luxury cars, vacation homes, designer everything. Her Instagram feed was a carefully curated showcase of success, each post garnering admiring comments from our parents. That's tough, she replied casually. Let me know if they need anything. I stared at the message, unsurprised yet disappointed. Carol had always been generous with appearances, stingy with substance. Our childhood in a middle-class neighborhood had affected us differently. While I had inherited our father's academic mindset and mother's practicality, Carol had developed an insatiable need for status and recognition, perhaps from witnessing our parents struggle to maintain appearances. The next day, I set up the monthly transfer from my account to theirs. $500 more than I could comfortably spare, but my parents' needs outweighed my own. I didn't mention it to them directly. They had always been proud people who hated accepting help, especially from me. Somehow, taking from Carol never seemed to wound their pride in quite the same way. Don't make a big deal about it, I told myself. Just help quietly. Summer, the seeds of deception. Weeks passed. During a Sunday call with my mother, she mentioned something odd. Carol's been so generous lately, she said, her voice warm with pride. The money she's been sending has been such a blessing. I frowned, confused. What money, Mom? The monthly deposits, she explained. She didn't want us to make a fuss, but your father and I are so grateful. It's just like Carol to help without wanting recognition. My stomach tightened as understanding dawned. I considered correcting her immediately, but something held me back. The adoration in her voice when she spoke about Carol was so familiar, so painful in its contrast to the way she talked about me, with mild appreciation at best, criticism at worst. That evening, I called Carol. They think you're sending them money, I said, trying to keep accusation from my voice. A pause. Oh, that. Her tone was dismissive. They just assumed it was me, and I didn't correct them. Does it really matter who gets credit? The important thing is they're getting help. It matters to me, I said quietly. Don't be so sensitive, Marian, she laughed. We both know they'd expect it from me anyway. The successful daughter helping out. It would just confuse them if they knew it was coming from you instead. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of student essays I needed to grade. 30 years of teaching had taught me about human nature, the need for validation, the pain of invisibility. My students saw me, appreciated me. Why couldn't my own family? I thought about confronting my parents with the truth, but what would that accomplish? Force them to acknowledge that their less favored daughter was supporting them? Create family drama when they were already dealing with health issues? So I said nothing, swallowed my hurt, and continued sending the money, as I had done so many times before. December, the breaking point. Christmas Eve arrived with its familiar patterns. My parents' home looked the same as it had for decades, the same ornaments on the tree, the same nativity scene on the mantel, the same family dynamics beneath the surface. I arrived early, helping my mother in the kitchen while my father watched TV in his recliner, oxygen tank beside him. A new addition this year. My daughter Lily couldn't make it until Christmas Day. Her part-time job at the campus bookstore needed her for last-minute holiday shoppers. When Carol swept in at 6 p.m. sharp, she brought her usual tornado of energy and attention. Designer boots, cashmere sweater, arms laden with expensively wrapped gifts. "Mom, Dad," she exclaimed, kissing them both. "The house looks beautiful. Oh, and I brought something special." She produced an envelope with theatrical flair. "A little extra for those medical bills." My mother's eyes welled with tears. "Carol, you've done so much already with the monthly help." "It's nothing," Carol smiled, catching my eye briefly before looking away. Family takes care of family. I felt something shift inside me, a quiet rage I'd suppressed for too long. Decades of being overlooked, of having my contributions minimized while Carol's were celebrated. All those years of putting everyone else first, my students, my daughter, my parents, while neglecting my own needs and dreams. My childhood friend Judy, who had arrived moments before Carol, sensed the tension immediately. She knew our family dynamics better than anyone, having witnessed them since we were children sharing hopscotch squares. During a lull in conversation, while Carol was showing our parents photos of her latest luxury vacation on her phone, Judy leaned close to me. "You okay?" "She's taking credit for my money," I whispered back. "The transfers to help with Dad's medical bills. She's letting them think it's all from her." Judy's eyes widened. Wow. Are you going to say something?" "I don't know if they'd even believe me," I admitted. "They've always seen what they wanted to see. But you have proof, right? Bank statements?" I nodded slowly. "On my banking app, yes." "Then show them," she urged. "Marian, you've spent your whole life being the invisible daughter. Maybe it's time to be seen." "The confrontation, Christmas Eve, Mom, Dad," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I need to tell you something about those monthly deposits." My mother looked up from Carol's phone, confusion crossing her face. "What about them?" "They're not from Carol. They're from me. I've been sending you $500 every month since July." The room went still. My father muted the television, turning to look at me with disbelief. Carol's smile froze, then transformed into something harder. "That's ridiculous," she said with a light laugh. "Marian, I know teaching doesn't pay well, but we all know you could never afford that with Lily's tuition." My mother's expression shifted from confusion to disappointment, a look I knew too well. "Marian, why would you say something like that? Carol has always been so generous." "Because it's the truth," I insisted, pulling out my phone. "I can show you the transactions right here." But when I opened my banking app, it wouldn't load. "System maintenance. All services temporarily unavailable," the screen declared. I tried again and again, but nothing changed. "How convenient," Carol murmured, just loud enough for everyone to hear. My father's face hardened. "Enough, Marian. I don't know why you try to take credit for your sister's generosity, but this is unacceptable. Especially on Christmas Eve." "But Dad, no." His professor's voice. The authoritative tone that had intimidated generations of university students cut through the room. Either apologize to your sister or leave. We're not doing this tonight. I looked at their faces. My father's anger, my mother's disappointment, Carol's veiled triumph, and felt something break inside me. 30 years of being the reliable one, the responsible one, the invisible one. And this was still how they saw me. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked out into the cold December night. Refuge. The coffee shop. The local coffee shop was one of the few places open on Christmas Eve. I'd been coming here for years, between parent-teacher conferences, after faculty meetings, during countless evenings grading papers. Mike, the owner, looked up as the bell above the door announced my arrival. Ms. Henderson? On Christmas Eve? He frowned with concern. Everything okay? I managed a weak smile. Family stuff, Mike. Just needed somewhere quiet. He nodded knowingly and brought me a peppermint mocha without my having to order. On the house, he insisted. You've supported my daughter through algebra and my business through morning coffee runs for years. Least I can do. I sank into a corner booth, cradling the warm mug between my hands. The familiar surroundings brought a strange comfort. The community I'd built for myself outside my family, where my contributions were seen and valued. My phone buzzed with a text from Judy. Where are you? Are you okay? I explained what had happened, and she immediately offered her guest room. Come over. No one should be alone on Christmas Eve, especially after that. As I drove to Judy's house, memories floated through my mind. Carol always being chosen first, always getting the bigger piece, always receiving the effusive praise. Me, being told to be practical, to lower my expectations, to not rock the boat. The pattern was so old, so deeply ingrained, that tonight felt like just another verse in a lifelong song. Judy was waiting at her door when I pulled up, 2 glasses of wine already poured. Her home was warm and lived in, walls adorned with photos of her sons and late husband. You know what bothers me most? I said after recounting the evening's events in fuller detail. Not that Carol took credit, it's that they so readily believed her over me. Without question, without proof. After all these years, they still see me as the lesser daughter. Judy, who had lost her husband to cancer 10 years ago and raised 2 boys alone while working as a nurse, understood struggle and resilience better than most. Your parents have always had a blind spot when it comes to you too, she observed. But Marion, at some point, this isn't about them anymore. It's about you standing up for yourself. At 52? I laughed bitterly. Isn't it a little late? It's never too late to demand respect, she said firmly. You've spent your life putting others first. Your students, your daughter, your parents. Maybe it's finally time to put yourself first. As we talked into the night, I realized Judy was right. This wasn't just about the money. It was about decades of invisibility, of having my worth diminished, of accepting less than I deserved. There has to be another way to prove the transfers, Judy mused. What about email confirmations? Doesn't the bank send those? I blinked, suddenly remembering. Yes, they do. The evidence, Christmas morning. Morning light filtered through Judy's guest room curtains as I scrolled through my email inbox with renewed purpose. And there they were, 6 monthly confirmation emails from my bank, each detailing the transfers to my parents' account. Irrefutable evidence, complete with dates, amounts, and account numbers. I found them. I told Judy over coffee, my voice steady with resolve. The confirmation emails for every transfer. She studied them on my phone screen and smiled. Perfect. Now what's the plan? I considered my options. I could send the evidence to my parents privately, avoiding further public confrontation. The easier path, certainly. But something in me had shifted. After 52 years of taking the easier path, of smoothing things over, of putting everyone else's comfort before my truth, I was done. I'm going to their house for Christmas dinner, I said. Everyone will be there. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Carol will undoubtedly try to play the victim again. And this time, I'll be ready. Judy looked concerned. That could get messy. It's already messy, I replied. But for once, I want the truth to be louder than Carol's performance. As I prepared to leave, I thought about my daughter Lily, who would meet us at my parents' house. At 20, she was everything I wasn't at her age: confident, assertive, unafraid to claim her space in the world. I had raised her to value herself in ways I never had, and now it was time to follow my own teaching. The reckoning. Christmas dinner. The atmosphere at my parents' house was strained when Judy and I arrived. My mother hugged me tentatively. My father nodded without meeting my eyes. Carol was holding court in the living room, surrounded by relatives, her voice carrying as she recounted some amusing anecdote from her recent business trip. My daughter Lily arrived shortly after us, immediately sensing the tension. "What's going on?" she whispered. "I'll explain later," I promised. Dinner began with forced cheerfulness. The turkey was carved, potatoes passed, conversations carefully steered towards safe topics. But I could feel Carol watching me, perhaps wondering if I'd try again to challenge her narrative. She didn't have to wait long. As dessert was being served, she delicately cleared her throat, drawing all eyes to her. "I just want to say how grateful I am to be able to help Mom and Dad during this difficult time," she began, her voice modulated to perfect sincerity. "The medical bills have been such a burden, but that's what family is for, right? To support each other." Murmurs of approval circled the table. My mother beamed at her, while my father nodded appreciatively. "And I want to apologize for the unpleasantness last night," Carol continued, glancing my way with perfectly calibrated concern. "Sometimes financial difficulties can make us say things we don't mean." I felt Lily's questioning gaze, Judy's supportive presence beside me. This was the moment. Continue the pattern of a lifetime or break it once and for all. I placed my fork down carefully. "Actually, Carol, I meant exactly what I said." The table went quiet. "I have something everyone should see." I opened my email app and passed my phone to my father. "These are confirmation emails from my bank for the 6 monthly transfers I've made to your account since July. Each one shows the date, amount, and both account numbers." My father scrolled through them slowly, his academic's mind processing the evidence methodically. My mother leaned over to look, her expression changing from skepticism to confusion. "These look legitimate," my father said finally, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "They are," I replied. "And if you check your bank statements, you'll see that the deposits match these exactly, coming from my account, not Carol's." Carol's composed facade began to crack. "This is ridiculous. Anyone can fake emails." "Then let's verify," I suggested calmly. "We can go to the ATM right now and check the transaction history on Mom and Dad's account. It will show which account the money came from." The truth. ATM revelation. The drive to the ATM was silent, heavy with tension. My father, mother, Carol, and I crowded around the small screen as my father inserted his card and navigated to the transaction history. Each monthly deposit was there, exactly as my emails had shown. And each one traced back to my account number, not Carol's. It was from my account. Every single transfer since July came from Sophie's account, my father stated, his voice hollow with realization. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide with shock and dawning comprehension. Carol stood rigid, her earlier confidence evaporating. When we returned to the house, the relatives sensed immediately that something significant had transpired. Carol didn't wait for explanations. She grabbed her designer coat and headed for the door. "Carol," my father called, his voice firmer now. "You owe your sister an explanation and an apology." She paused, back still turned. "Fine," I lied. "Happy now?" But she told me she didn't want recognition for it. I just took advantage of an opportunity. An opportunity to what? My mother asked, her voice uncharacteristically hard. "To lie to us? To take credit for your sister's generosity?" Carol finally turned, tears mixing with her perfect makeup. "To be the daughter you're proud of, for once. The one who takes care of you instead of disappointing you." The raw truth of her words hung in the air. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of understanding. Carol's need for approval, for validation, was just the flip side of my resignation to invisibility. We were both products of the same dysfunctional family dynamic. "You've never disappointed us," my father said, but his tone lacked conviction. "Save it," Carol snapped and walked out. As the door closed behind her, My parents turned to me, their expressions a mixture of shame and regret. Marian, my mother began, voice trembling. We've been so unfair to you. All these years. We should have verified, my father added, the academic in him ashamed of accepting claims without evidence. We should have listened to you first. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak yet. The validation I'd sought for so long had finally arrived, but it felt hollow, bittersweet. Lily stepped forward and took my hand, her young face reflecting both pride and fierce protection. My mom has spent her entire life putting others first, she said to my parents. Maybe it's time you saw that. Epilogue. New beginnings. Later that night, back in my apartment with Lily, I felt strangely light, as if a weight I'd carried for decades had finally been lifted. Not just the vindication of the truth being revealed, but something deeper, the liberation of finally standing up for myself. I'm proud of you, Mom, Lily said, curled up on the couch beside me. That couldn't have been easy. I smiled, thinking about my classroom, where I'd spent 30 years teaching young people to find their voices, to stand up for truth, to value themselves. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones we need to teach ourselves. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. Your mother and I have been talking. We'd like to make this right, whatever it takes. We love you, Marian. Another message followed, this one from Judy. How about that trip to Europe this summer? You've earned it. I looked at Lily, at the small Christmas tree in the corner of our apartment, at the stack of student journals I'd be returning after the break, each filled with stories of young lives I'd touched in some small way. My life wasn't glamorous or Instagram worthy, but it was rich with meaning, with connections, with purpose. What happens now? Lily asked. I don't know exactly, I admitted. But whatever it is, I'm done being invisible. Outside, snow began to fall, covering the old year and preparing the ground for the new. At 52, I was finally learning that it's never too late to rewrite your own story.